Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Bitter Rivals podcast. This is episode 119. I'm your host, Avery Roush, along with co-host Gitano Gallo, as per usual. This is, we'll call it the trade deadline review episode, is what this is. There were some significant trades made. There were some teams that didn't do much that people kind of were thinking were going to do a little bit more. Actually, I would probably put both the Leafs and Habs in that category.
I would absolutely agree.
For different reasons. So, yeah, we can start. As all, I guess we'll start with the Leafs. The Leafs made two minor deals. They picked up Joel Edmondson, who hasn't been very good, but does come with Stanley Cup experience, being at two Stanley Cups, winning one of them, losing with the Montreal Canadiens, I might add, and then also picking up Connor Dewar, who is a great penalty killer and not much else. So there's kind of like what Tree said is what I've said on this podcast multiple times, and that's like nobody that they picked up at this trade deadline was going to be something that would push them over the edge. The only thing that's going to push them over the edge is themselves, who's in that locker room already. It's as simple as that, and that's exactly what the strategy that Treliving went with at this trade deadline, holding on to a first round pick. Yada, yada, yada.
So are you happy with the Leafs deadline?
I'm of the belief that you probably want to do a little bit more when you have a talented group like you have. But on the other hand, I'm not upset about them not losing any prospects or first round pick. And yeah, I kind of agree with what I was saying was Treliving's point of view, that's that these guys have to get over the hump. It's not, there was nobody that you were going to add at this trade deadline that was going to get you over that hump. That's all.
So what would you give the Leafs deadline out of like scale of 1 to 10? 10 being best, obviously 1 being worst.
Scale of, I'd probably give it like a 6 or a 7, maybe. Like probably a 6.5, call it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So let's talk about a little bit of Habs deadline.
Yeah, so the Habs were not very busy at the deadline at all, actually. Only two minor trades. So Jan Mysak got traded to the Ducks for Jacob Perreault. Basically, 2 AHL players flipped. Really nothing significant there. Actually, there was a trade made today. Again, AHL players. They are not eligible called up for the season, but again, just AHL players flipped. Nothing major. Really only, I don't even want to call it a major trade. Was Jake Allen was traded to the New Jersey Devils for a conditional third. So if he plays 40 or more games over this year and next year, it becomes a second round pick, and the Habs are retaining 50% of his salary. I think it's a fine trade. I don't think we were going to get much more than that for him. Especially given the way the market kind of went with the goalies, where really none of them moved. None of the major ones moved anyways. I thought, a third that will probably end up being a second is a pretty solid return. Again, kind of, to your point with the Leafs, not a lot of moves, but I also don't think the Habs needed to make a ton of moves either. Again, for very different reasons from the Leafs is, the Habs are trying to kind of keep a core of players at this point. You don't want to be sellers constantly year after year. So for me anyways, keeping David Savard was huge. He still has a couple years left on his deal, has been one of Montreal's better defenders this year. So I thought, unless someone was going to offer something stupid for him, like keeping hold of him was great. So yeah, I'd probably say the Habs had an okay-ish deadline. There was nobody really that, looking at the roster now, that I'm like, how did they not get traded? So yeah, pretty quiet deadline for the Habs, but the couple moves they did make made a ton of sense.
Yeah, yeah. And again, just going back to the Leafs for a second, I kind of forgot to mention what they gave.
Yeah.
College prospect Cade Weber. They gave up a 2026 6 for him. That's just minor deal there.
Yeah.
What was it for Edmondson? I'm forgetting now. I believe it was a third and a fifth. Yeah. So a 2024 third and a 2025 fifth, and that was for Edmondson, I believe, with retention.
I don't see retention on the TSN trade tracker, but I can double check on Cap Friendly for you.
Yeah, and then we gave up center prospect Dmitry Ovchinnikov and a 2026 fourth, and that was for Connor Dewar. So that's what we gave up. Don't believe there was any retention on the Dewar trade.
So yeah, Washington's retaining some salary on Joel Edmondson.
How much? 50?
I think, yeah, it looks like 50.
Okay. Okay, so that, yeah, I don't know why that's not on the TSN trade tracker. That's weird. But anyway, not a lot going out, not a lot coming in. You had a couple, like Connor Dewar's also a big body. Joel Edmondson, as we know, is the king of the cross check and also a big body. So you just add some mutants, which, you know, adding to a position of need is never a bad thing. That was the same thing with the Ilya Lyubushkin trade. Forgot about that one early on, but we knew about that before we recorded the last episode. So
yeah,
I don't know. I think honestly over the past week the Leafs have tailed off. They now have a break until Thursday, and I think they need it. I think that's good for them. Really good for them. Yeah, shall we go over some major trades from around the league now?
Yeah, so where would you like to start? Bottom of the list or top of the list?
Let's go bottom of the list.
So I believe the last one we talked about last week was the Tanev trade.
Yes, so we are going to, Tarasenko to the Panthers, where he's already looked like a really good fit. And going back to the Senators was a conditional fourth and a 2025 third. Do you know the condition on that?
I do not. I will pull it up here right now. So the Sens are retaining 50% of his salary, and
the fourth becomes a third. The 2024 fourth becomes a third in 26 if the Panthers win the Cup, and a third round choice in 2025.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was major.
It's funny. We're going to take a minute to shit on the Ottawa Senators here because the rebuild was over, Avery.
Yeah, I believe it was three years ago this week that Mark Mathot said, mark my words, in 2 to 3 years that the Senators will have a better team than the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
And they're still bottom feeding, so selling every deadline, building 45 minutes still outside of the city. Yeah, it's just still a dumpster fire. So let's not give them any more airtime than that.
Nope.
And let's move on to the Edmonton Oilers acquiring Adam Henrique, who was somebody that I was talking about liking on last week's episode. Sam Carrick, who is a good depth center, and a 2024 seventh for their 2024 first and a conditional 2025 fifth. The Ducks are retaining 50% of both of those cap hits. And the Tampa Bay Lightning receive the fourth, it looks like, to retain an additional 25% of Henrique's cap hit.
Wild to see Tampa in there as a team just in there for retention.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, yeah, I guess you've been kind of emptying the cupboard for all these years, though. You got to do something. If you're not going to make any moves yourself at the deadline to use that kind of space, you might as well use it to get a fourth.
Oh, I know. It's just so weird that like, we're so used to seeing them up against the cap. Coming into this just with their team loaded up. So it's weird to see it. I love this deal for Anaheim. I don't think Adam Henrique is worth a first. So the fact they got a first off Edmonton is huge for them, especially kind of given the state of their rebuild. It's a little rocky right now. The rumors of Zegras wanting out. They already moved out Drysdale. I think picking up an extra first is fucking huge. And I also don't think the Oilers are going to go very far in the playoffs. So it's not even going to be a late. I think that's going to be kind of a middle of the pack-ish pick. So I think that's a great deal for Anaheim.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. I also like it for Edmonton. They add more scoring up front on the left wing there. All they had to do was give up a first, which isn't going to be a high first anyway. They're a good hockey team. They'll probably go deep into the playoffs. I know we've shit on them for a lot of years, but it's time to stop. They look deadly right now. Moving on, the Colorado Avalanche pick up defenseman Sean Walker, puck-moving D-man Sean Walker. and a 2026 fifth in exchange for Ryan Johansson, who was immediately put on waivers, and a conditional 2025 first, and I can't seem to find the condition on that one.
No, I'm looking for it right now, but I don't see it.
Yeah.
Oh, top 10 protected.
Top 10 protected, and it's Colorado, though. Colorado's not going to, so it's a first. It's just a first in 25.
Yeah.
This was a wild one. Kind of came out of nowhere.
I also think this links with the next trade as well, too.
Yeah, it does, obviously. Bowen Byram for Casey Middlestat, 1-for-1.
I was going to say, so do we think Sean Walker is an upgrade on Bowen Byram? Yes or no?
Right now, yes. Moving forward, probably not.
But does Casey Middlestat long-term fit Colorado really well? I think so.
I think probably. I think that's
especially Landeskog's not coming back anytime soon, or at the kind of level that he was. I don't expect him to anyways. So yeah, I think getting Casey Middlestat's huge for Colorado.
I would have to agree with you on that. So yeah, I would say that just Colorado gets better. Philly gets a first-round pick, and Buffalo gets a young D-man who is probably going to be really good.
Well, you think, you look at that, they're kind of top 3-4 defensemen now, Dolly and Power and Bowen Byram. Like that's half of a really fucking good decor.
It is.
You get Bowen Byram a good partner, and you're talking about that's a complete decor. So you still need to fill out the last pairing, but like you get him a good partner, like you kind of don't have to worry about that now.
Yeah. Yeah. We've seen how difficult it is to build out a strong decor like that in the NHL. Colorado's actually one of the teams that has been able to do it.
Yeah.
So that's why they were able to move on from Bowen Byram, because they already have a nasty decor, and they even added to it in Walker. So there you go. Speaking of nasty decors, the Vegas Golden Knights do it again, and they get Noah Hanifin out of Calgary for Daniil Miromanov, who I don't personally know much about. I assume he's a prospect. Conditional 2025 first and a conditional 2025 third. And that's what it cost the Vegas Golden Knights for Noah Hanifin.
So the first round pick is top 10 protected and becomes a 2026 first if Vegas trades their 2025 pick before the deadline, and the third upgrades to a second if the Knights win a single playoff round. So a couple conditions there, but a phenomenal deal for Vegas. I think they're looking to go back to back.
They just every year, and they somehow still have this pick, which is crazy. Like they have their first round 2024 pick, which is crazy that they picked up Noah Hanifin, and we'll talk about another trade that they made later on. It's just unbelievable. It's truly unbelievable what they've been able to do. Moving on, the Jake Gensel trade.
This is a wild one. This is a big one.
Yeah, so Jake Gensel and Ty Smith go to the Carolina Hurricanes in exchange for guy who just signed a deal with Carolina, Michael Bunting.
Yeah, but it never really worked out there for him. I don't hate them offloading him.
Yeah, Ville Koivunen, Vasily Ponomarev, prospect Cruz Lucius.
Great
conditional name. One of the best names in sports. Conditional 2024 first and conditional 2024 fifth. Penguins are retaining 25% of Jake Gensel's salary.
All right. So the first becomes Philadelphia's second if the Hurricanes don't reach the Cup final. And then Pittsburgh only gets the fifth if Carolina wins the Stanley Cup. Yeah. That's a really confusing condition, but yeah, that is a condition on those picks.
These GMs are truly
how they come up with this stuff is incredible.
It's wild. It's absolutely crazy. Yeah, so Carolina gets Jake Gensel is the big story there. Jake Gensel is, as we know, one of the better goal scorers in the National Hockey League. Of course, he's always had Sidney Crosby to play with, and that has probably helped. But Sebastian Aho is not no slouch. Svechnikov's not a slouch. Like, they have what it takes to get him the puck, and he'll continue to score goals over in Carolina, I think.
And not only is he a goal scorer, but he's a playoff goal scorer.
Yes, which is significantly more important. So
yeah.
I like that for them. I hate that for pretty much every other team in the East, including the Toronto Maple Leafs. But that's, I would say, one of the biggest pickups here at this trade deadline.
Yeah, I would almost say that it is the biggest move of the deadline. But I think there's one more that tops it out, also by Vegas, but we'll get to it in a minute.
Yeah, so up next, we have Tyler Toffoli going from the Devils to the Jets for a 2024 third and a 2025 second, 50% retained. Tyler Toffoli, you know a lot about. Why don't you tell us about Tyler Toffoli and what he can bring to that Winnipeg Jets lineup?
He's a great player. He's a playoff goal scorer. He proved it in LA, proved it in Montreal. I feel bad for the dude because he's been getting moved from contender to contender looking to win a cup. They don't win, and then the team just fucking falls apart, and he gets traded somewhere else again. So just on a personal level, I feel, because the dude's been moved so many times now. But I think, yeah, he's going to shore up Winnipeg's top six. Like this thing, you know what you're getting with Tyler Toffoli. He's not the fastest guy in the league. Great vision, great hockey IQ, phenomenal shot. I think if Vegas doesn't do what Vegas does, this makes Winnipeg one of the favorites. But unfortunately for them, Vegas, kind of blew everyone out of the water with this next trade.
They did. So Vegas just out of nowhere gets Tomas Hertl. They also get a 2/3, 1 in 25 and 27 for their first and David Edstrom. And they also had the Sharks retain 17% of Hertl's salary for 6 years.
Like, I can't believe, because there was almost no rumors of Hertl going anywhere. Like, this came out of nowhere. He's got, like you said, 6 more years. Like, this is not the guy that gets moved at the trade deadline.
That is wild. That is an absolutely asinine decision on San Jose's part. Like, you don't know what's happening 6 years from now. You cannot be giving away cap space for 6 years for one first-round pick and David Edstrom. Like,
and you also just made. Are they in the same division?
Yes,
they're in the same division. You just made a divisional rival better for 6 years
and retain. I don't know.
Like, you are paying every time Tomas Hertl scores against San Jose Sharks over the next 6 years. The Sharks paid for 17% of that.
Just wild. Just absolutely crazy. Again, Vegas, you know what it is? McCrimmon, their GM, legitimately, he comes from a junior background. And in junior, when you go all in, you go all in. And he just takes the same strategy and uses it in the National Hockey League.
Except he's been going all in for fucking 7 years now.
I know. It's nuts. It works. That's the thing, is it works. Pietrangelo, Jack Eichel. Man, oh man.
It feels like he's playing NHL career mode, where you don't care about draft picks and prospects, where you just fucking trade them all every year for the best players.
He truly believes draft picks are magic beans.
Oh yeah, he doesn't give a fuck for draft picks. Well, I mean, look at what they've drafted over the past fucking 7 years. They're the best player they've drafted was Nick Suzuki, who they traded before he played a fucking game for them.
For Pacioretty. Remember, they went in for Pacioretty.
It's just nuts. Wild. It's nuts. And this move, to me, makes Vegas, not that they're, super far off favorites. I think there's some other good teams, but they have to be favorites. Especially because, all the players on LTIR, like Mark Stone, are going to be miraculously healthy come the first day of the playoffs. This lineup's going to be absolutely fucking absurd.
Yeah. Yeah, and it already was. They won the cup last year, right? Marchessault's been nasty again. Once Eichel comes, is Eichel playing right now? I don't even know.
I honestly don't even know. Give me 2 seconds. I will pull up their current roster on Cap Friendly.
But it's absolutely wild. And yeah, this Alec Martinez is on LTIR as well right now.
Yeah.
And
And by the way, Thomas Hurdle goes directly to LTIR.
yeah,
So Martinez and Brett Howden are also on the IR. Sorry, all three of those guys are on the IR. Mark Stone is the only one who's on LTIR. But again, well, that's going to actually play because Robin Leonard is technically there, and then William Carrier is there, but I don't think either of them play or make a difference. And so I guess Mark Stone's the big one. But yeah, Jack Eichel is currently on the active roster, so he's not even out.
I actually this is one of the things in this league that has left me speechless for a few years now is their ability to just continue to roll over and continue to be good and continue to be good. And goalie wins the Vezina, gone. 2 years in a row. They're wild. I don't know how they continue to do it, but good on them. You have to give credit where credit is due. They run their team, and they've become a face of the National Hockey League. They've become one of the more popular teams in the league, and they were conceived in 2017.
Well, you want to know what helps with that? Winning a lot of hockey games.
Yeah.
And in the 7 years they've been in the leagues, they've won a fucking lot of hockey games.
Well, it's the perfect storm, right? They were the first sports team in Vegas.
Yeah.
And, obviously this isn't a good thing, but, there was that massive, terrible shooting at that country concert right, at the beginning of that hockey season. The entire city rallied around the hockey team. The hockey team rallied around the entire city. They just carried that momentum all the way to the playoffs that year, and they've been off and running ever since.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, especially going to a cup final in your first season of the franchise, that helps a lot.
Yes.
That's the thing, if they pulled, and I'm not shitting on Seattle here, they've been fine. They've been basically what we would expect an expansion team to look like after a couple of years. But I don't think the Vegas Knights would be doing anything near what they'd be doing now if they didn't go on that massive cup run right away. The fan support for them is massive. I mean, maybe not globally, but around the league, everyone follows what Vegas does. It's incredible.
Yeah. No, and it's just been 7 years of the same thing, and they've already won their cup. And they're probably going to be a problem moving forward as well, because they have a young goaltender. They have just a solid decor, unbelievable decor, and they just keep adding monsters up front. Eichel, Hurdle, Marchessault's a monster. Carlson can score goals. They just keep loading up, and it's wild.
I the only in quotes problem they're gonna have is how the fuck do they put out a roster next year when all these guys aren't on the injured reserve? But it's that's a problem for next season. They don't care about that right now.
They've done that for 7 years. They'll do it again.
Yeah. It's insane. So with that, I am going to crown Vegas as the first winner of the trade deadline for all of the obvious reasons we just stated. There's really not much else we can say about it. They fucking did the best deals at the deadline, made their team the best it could possibly going into the playoffs. Outright winners.
Yeah, and you know what? They deserve it. The players deserve it from their management team.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They won a Stanley Cup. They're pushing for a playoff spot this year. They're actually not guaranteed one, which is wild, but they're going to be fine. They're going to be in the playoffs, and they're going to be fine. Let's talk about something else wild that happened this week. John Torterella. John Torterella. Buddy. He gets kicked out of a hockey game and flat out refuses to leave the bench.
Well, let's put some context here. There had been 11 minutes played and they were down 4-0.
Yeah.
And he gets kicked out of this hockey game.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also, fuck. I don't understand Wes McCauley's. Well, okay, maybe I understand the decision to kick him out if he was swearing at him, whatever, and Wes had enough, fine. But Wes McCauley did not have the balls to skate over to the bench and kick John Torterella out.
No.
He sat at the timekeeper's box with his hands on his hips and just motioned him to go.
Yeah.
And when he didn't go, He sent his rookie fucking linesman to go deal with Tortorella instead of doing that himself. And that's just fucking scum of the earth shit from Wes McCauley. I get it. He's great. He's entertaining when he makes his calls, but he's a pretty fucking dog shit ref.
No, he is a dog shit ref, and the Leafs have fallen victim to his dog shit reffing multiple times. So I have no respect for that guy. He actually and I'm not going to get far too into details here, but just look up Sheldon Keefe and Wes McCauley, and then tell me that you think there's not a conflict of interest with Wes McCauley refereeing hockey games that the Leafs are involved in. Yeah, but John Tortorella just I saw a tweet. I wish I remember who tweeted it. It was so funny. It said like him getting kicked out of a game 10 minutes in and refusing to leave the bench is actually out of like a John Tortorella fan fiction. Like,
oh wait, a little more context. I forgot this. They were also, so the game was in Tampa and they were celebrating the 2004 Cup champions, the team that John Tortorella coached.
Yeah, so those guys are just dying in their box.
Oh yeah,
like just
dying. They were in the press box
box
howling because that's the most John Tortorella thing to ever fucking do.
Oh yeah, and then he gets suspended for 2 games
and fined $50,000,
which his owner is paying for.
Lovely.
Yeah, the owner, I think it's Comcast owns the Flyers, and
I think so. Yeah.
He said the owner of Comcast was like, yeah, no, I appreciate John Tortorella standing up for our guys, for our team. He's bringing back a culture. I respect the league if they want to punish him, but if there is a fine involved, I will be paying it.
I love that for that. And like, well, I just think of like fucking Jacob Trouba taking a fucking golf swing at Buddy's head. I forget who it was. He got a $5,000 fine for that. You're telling me John Tortorella? And by the way, he did leave. He did leave the bench.
But he did park his ass there for a few minutes, dude.
It was like a minute and a half, like 2 minutes tops. And you're telling me that is
so
extra $45,000 and a 2-game suspension compared to fucking taking a baseball swing at a guy's head.
Yeah, like fucking golfing a lob wedge at a guy's head, like.
And like, I get it's totally different things, but like when you look at the NHL and just discipline in general across the league, like you can't tell me those two things are like.
It's see, the difference there is obviously Gitano is that Trouba's part of a players' union. There is no union for coaches.
I know.
Right, so that's why there's different fines. Like you can't get fined more than like $5,000 as a player, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
So. But there's no limits on coach fines. But it's wild because John Tortorella doesn't make as much as the players do either.
No.
And he didn't like. It was so like just the visual of him going, "I'm not leaving."
Also, like with his broken ass hand in a cast.
Yeah, I am not going anywhere. Like it was so classic John Tortorella, and the way he left too, just the don't need you with his broken hand.
But again, like just like zero balls on Wes McCauley. Because if Wes McCauley had any balls, he'd skate over to that bench and be like, "Get the fuck off your bench."
Yeah,
and then it's not an issue. But Wes McCauley does not have balls.
I loved the Friedman tweet too, the Elliot Friedman tweet. He goes, "Yeah, we were all laughing on social media yesterday about the John Tortorella incident. It seems the league didn't think it was as funny as we did." Gary Bettman's just sitting in his office, just
seething. Oh, he was seething with that. He is fuming.
Oh, he was on. Yeah. He was on one when he saw Torts. Anyway,
I love that from Torts.
Yeah, that was classic stuff. Anyway, what do we have this week in Montreal?
In Montreal, so we've got the Jackets in town tomorrow, the Bruins in town Thursday, and then we're visiting the Flames on Saturday.
Okay, so this week we have Leafs Flyers in Philly.
No Torts.
No Torts. Maybe. I don't know. When do they play? When did that happen? Saturday night?
That was Saturday night, yeah. Give me 2 seconds here. Keep going, I'll let you know.
Yeah. Excuse me, sorry. So Leafs Flyers Thursday, March 14th. And then the Hurricanes are in town Saturday, March 16th. We get a look at Gensel in black and red. So that'll be interesting. That's all we have for the week. So that's Saturday to Thursday off. Hopefully the boys take that time to, recuperate, because even though we beat Montreal on Saturday, I know we didn't even talk about that game, but
It was a great game.
It was a great game. Well, the Leafs actually didn't play very well. Like, let's be honest, they were not very good.
But that's what made it a great game, was like it was very even the whole game.
Yeah, exactly.
Like those are the type of games that, as a Habs fan right now, I don't mind losing. Yes, I would rather beat the Leafs, don't get me wrong, but like when you play if you play a full 60 against the Leafs and you fucking lose a 1-goal game late in the third, I'm fine with that. The effort level was there, the compete level was there, can't argue with it.
Yeah, and you just want the Leafs to put a better effort out against a team that is in the place that the Montreal Canadiens are in right now, right? And the Leafs are notorious for not doing that, not putting their foot to teams' throats that they should put their foot to their throat. They've done it more as of late when they were on their 11 game there where they went 9-1-1. Like that was a good stretch against mostly bad teams, and I wish they would have done that to Montreal. That's all. Yeah, and we're getting close here. Like there's only a few weeks left of the season. The Leafs played their last game on April 17th, and then it's playoff time, baby. It is playoff time, and I am jacked up for that. I cannot wait for the playoffs. It's going to be interesting to see how things play out the last stretch of this regular season here. Who hits wild cards? There's races going on. It's going to be a hell of a run here to the end of the season, and I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And I mean, as much as the Habs aren't involved in any of those wild card races, I'm still very looking forward to seeing what the Habs do in terms of like player growth in these next little stretch here. We still have to play the Leafs. We still have actually a couple of big games at the Bruins. We got the Senators. We've got the Oilers coming up following week. So there's some still pretty big games for us. I would like to see some good efforts. Let's put it that way.
There you go. Thank you to everybody for listening. Thank you to 91N and everybody over there for all that you do for us. We will talk to you next Sunday. This has been a Monday episode of the Bitter Rebels podcast. Talk to you later.